Since BYD arrived in the UK shores just a short 2.5 years ago, they've delivered us no less than 7 new cars. All of which have been good, but not outstanding. With the exception of one, I think, the all-electric Seal Saloon. Now, the Seal Saloon is a compact sports saloon that goes up against cars such as the Tesla Model 3, the Polestar 2 and the BMW i4. And it is, I think, BYD's best product so far. And now we have car number 8, which rather confusingly is also called the BYD Seal. And it's also a saloon, although you can have it as an estate as well. But it's not electric, nor does it have anything to do with the other Seal Saloon, because this one is a hybrid. Confused? I am. Welcome to this week's road test review. Welcome to the new BYD Seal 6 DMI. Please sit yourself down, make yourself comfortable while I try and unravel all of this in the house of cars. Right, let me try and clear this up, because in some respects it's not that confusing apart from the naming strategy that BYD seem to have adopted, because the cars themselves, the products, are relatively simple to understand. BYD effectively have 2 lines of cars. They have their full electric vehicles, which is everything from super minis up to large SUVs. You get the little Dolphin Surf, the Atto 2 small B segment crossover, there's the Dolphin, the C segment hatchback, the Atto 3 C sector SUV, of course the large SUV, the Sea Line 7, and of course the Seal, the electric saloon car that I was telling you about earlier. But they also know that not everyone is going to get on with a fully electric vehicle. So they also offer a line of hybrids as well, or as they call them, DMIs, dual mode intelligent is what it stands for. And within that range, they are increasing the amount that's available. They're all plug-in hybrids. You're going to have, they're just about to launch the little Atto 2 as a DMI as well. So the same as the electric one, but with plug-in hybrid ability. There's the Seal U DMI, which is the large SUV, which I've already tested. And now there's this, the Seal 6. So as I say, it's the names that sort of throw the confusion out there. But the hybrid system is quite clever, because what it does is it prioritises electric drive. Now BYD, believe it or not, were the first company to actually put a plug-in hybrid into series production way back in 2008. So they've got an awful lot of experience with this type of technology. And what it does is, I say, it uses a petrol engine up at the front, an electric motor, a battery that's maybe slightly larger than you'd maybe expect, depending obviously on the size of car. And as I say, it prioritises electric drive. The engine acts like a generator in some respects, charging the battery, which then provides power to the electric motor to drive the car. But the engine can also work as a series hybrid, in other words, providing power to the actual wheels to assist the electric motor. But that's the important thing. The engine is there to assist the electric drive rather than be the priority that you get in most other plug-in hybrids. See? Told you it was easy to understand. Well, now there's this, the Seal 6, and of course it's available, as I say, as either a medium-sized saloon car, or as I've got here, the Touring, the estate version, which I think could be quite a popular choice. However, as always, before we start, let's take a look at the main points of BYD's Seal 6 DMI. So the new Seal 6 DMI is the company's second entrant into the competitive D-segment saloon market after the original Seal Saloon. However, this time offering the plug-in hybrid drivetrain that we first saw in the Seal U DMI SUV. Although similar in size, this Seal 6 is not just a hybrid version of the electric Seal Saloon, and it also offers the choice of the 2 body styles, Saloon and the estate variant we have here, they call Touring. The cars are fitted with a 1.5 litre normally aspirated petrol engine, which along with an electric motor produces either 181 horsepower in the Boost model or 209 horsepower in the Comfort model. The cars are equipped with BYD's Blade battery in either 10 kWh or 19 kWh sizes, which, along with a very frugal petrol engine, could potentially give the one model a combined range of up to 930 miles of driving before refuelling. And prices start at just under £34,000 for the saloon body style and £35,000 for the Touring estate. So on the face of it, what you're getting is a medium-sized saloon or estate well priced, well equipped, with all the benefits of EV driving, with all the convenience of a petrol engine car. Is it too good to be true? Well, let's stick it through a House of Cars road test review and find out, shall we? But before we do that, could I just ask you to make sure that you subscribe to the channel and turned on your notifications so you don't miss the next review when it's uploaded and it's gone live. And of course, as always, if you enjoy it, give it a wee thumbs up and leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Right, let's see what this is all about, shall we? Right, styling. Now, this is not a hybrid version of the Seal that we've already been used to, as in the electric one, okay? It is a different car, so it has got a different style to it. They look similar in some respects, but if I'm being blunt about it, whilst I quite like the look of the car, I don't think it looks as sharp as the Seal Saloon, the electric one. Okay, that's just not quite, there's something a bit about it that's got a little bit more bland in some ways. And I think it's to do with the front end of the car, because obviously you've got a petrol engine in here, so you need cooling. So the front of the car's a little bit higher. It's a bit more bluff rather than that nice sharp pointed snout you get on the Seal. But it's okay, it's not a bad looking car, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it doesn't look quite as sharp as that other Seal that they've got in the range. You nice swept-backed headlights there, obviously, with the sort of like J DRLs in there as well. LED headlight technology, which obviously most cars are getting now. Of course, you get the big BYD lettering across the front, the big badge there, and the chrome sitting on top of the bonnet there. And this is the area here that's different, down this lower half here. So you get a grille down there now, because obviously the engine needs cooling. There's the sensor for the radar guided cruise control. And this area here doesn't have that sort of like lighting signature the other Seal gets. It's got a more sort of like bland area down here. There's a little vent there to help with airflow around down the side of the car, which is quite nice. And this sort of arrowhead style of infill there, but as I say, it just lacks a little bit of the sharpness of the other car for me. But it's not a bad looking thing, that's not what I'm suggesting at all, but it's just not quite as good looking as the other one, which is also called Seal, but that's not the same as this Seal. It's a different Seal, very different Seal. Now, like I say, you get it in two body styles, either the saloon or estate, or touring as they call it, which I've got here, okay? Now, here's the other confusing thing with BYD. They say, oh, this is a sort of like a C-segment car. It's not. It's a D-segment saloon and estate car. Don't take any heed of that, okay? Because it's 4.8 metres long with a wheelbase of 2,790 millimetres. That's the same whether it's a saloon or a touring, okay? And that makes it a bigger car than a Tesla Model 3, okay? So it's that size of car that we're talking about here. The other confusing thing is the trim levels in some respects, because at the moment, there's going to be two in the UK, either the Boost that I've got here or the Comfort. But the Comfort doesn't come into the UK for another couple of months. So they're offering us what is effectively the third trim level in other markets, the Comfort Light, which is the one that sits between the Boost and the Comfort. But that will eventually be replaced by the Comfort. I told you it was confusing. Right. Two different sizes alloy wheels, okay? So you get the 17-inch alloys on the Boost, you move up to 18s on the Comfort. Nothing ridiculous in that. The only thing I will say is this, the style of them, and they made them all black, and I think it makes it look under-wheeled. Does that make sense? I think it needs a nicer set of wheels on the car. To me, it looks like a mini cab that's lost its wheel trims. I just don't think that that's a really nice choice of alloy wheel for the car, personally. Don't know how you feel. Anyway, side profile, you can definitely tell, although the saloon looks quite similar to the other Seal that's in the range, the touring obviously is very different, partly because obviously it's an estate car, but it doesn't have that line that the Seal Saloon has, where it goes down here into that arrowhead style piece of trim. It's got a very much more kind of plain look to the side of it. You've still got quite some nice lines. I like that sort of line that comes along underneath the bonnet there and then just disappears into that door to then reappear in the back door and take it round the back. That's quite nice. And then of course you get this other one just down there. And I like the touring with the fact it's got all the blacked out sort of like pillars down the side to give it almost like a floating roof look to the car. You know, you just don't really notice this back pillar, and it just elongates the look of the roof as well, which I do quite like. Nothing fancy like pop-out door handles and stuff, just normal door handles with the car as well. But in touring, guys, I think it's a really good looking machine, I really do. Just not as good looking as the other Seal, which isn't available as a touring and is a completely different car. Around the back, quite like it. BYD sort of signature light bar that goes across here. Of course, they don't put build your dreams across the back of the car now, which is lovely. You get the inset BYD chrome badging there, which looks really nice and premium. I do like that. And as I say, the lighting bar across the back, I think it's always got quite a nice theme to it. You usually have the ocean theme in it, you know, with the little kind of water droplets. Yeah, this one's got it as well, which is quite nice. It looks quite distinctive at night. Of course, you get a rear wiper. You're going to need one. High level rear brake light there built into this lovely big spoiler at the back there. The boot release is quite nice because it's just inbuilt into the light bar, just a little press of the button there, and of course you can also do it from the key fob as well, so I do quite like that. And the hatch opens right down to bumper level. It's quite a low, you know, quite a low bumper that's set on the car as well, so that's quite good for loading. Low set number plate, and of course nice little diffuser area there with some body colour bits down at the bottom there, reflectors there. Your DMI badging there, letting you know that it's obviously it's the hybrid, and Seal 6 on the side there. So none of that funny, you know, numbers and stuff that you get with the other Seal, which obviously is different to this car, that gives you the performance figures. It's just Seal 6, because that's what this is, a Seal 6, which is different to a Seal, which is also different to a Seal U. Look, I think it's a nice looking car. I don't mind it at all. I don't like the wheels, but that's by the by. I think the saloon itself does look like the other Seal saloon, but this Touring I think is quite a handsome looking thing. I really do like it. But it doesn't matter what I think, does it? It matters what you think, because you might be out there buying this car. And the reason I've taken the Touring as well was I thought it was quite an interesting thing, because when you start thinking about plug-in hybrid estate cars, there's not really an awful lot of them out there in the marketplace. So is this the type of thing that would maybe tempt you out of an SUV, because that's all that's been available up to you up to now, whereas ultimately what you really wanted was just a good estate car? Do you like the look of this? Are you tempted to go electric, but you're just not quite sure yet? Would this provide you with that sort of halfway house, that stepping stone? Do you like the way that it looks? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, please. Right, practicality wise, well, as I say, I've got the Touring, which is a very practical car. You've got 500 litres of boot space in the car, and if you fold down the standard 60-40 split rear seat, it takes total capacity up to 1,535 litres. Now that 500 litres I was talking about is up to actually the bottom of the parcel shelf there. If you fold that down, you've now got over 600 litres of boot space there now, which is quite decent. You've also got height adjustable boot floor, but it doesn't adjust that much in fairness, but I'll go on to that in a wee second. Now, the saloon model is actually quite big boot as well. It's got 491 litres of boot space, but obviously being a saloon, it doesn't have the sort of like the aperture that obviously the estate car has, like you've got here. As I say, 60-40 split rear seat. You've also got a ski hatch through the centre there for longer loads as well. And the other nice thing as well that I've seen with this car, which not a lot of Chinese manufacturers are doing, is you've got things such as the tie-down hooks in the back and little hooks on the side there. A lot of them seem to forget little things like that. You can also lower the rear seats down from either the back of the seat as you would normally do, or from these levers inside the actual boot itself up on the side here, which is excellent. Now, the height adjustable boot floor I was telling you about, there's no storage as such underneath here, so you do get 2 cable bags, all right, which you need to find homes for as well. However, if you drop the boot floor down, it only drops just about an inch or so, but it might just be enough to give you that extra height that you're looking for, okay? But obviously, if you then use it with the folded rear seats, you're going to have a bit of a step up in the actual sort of like the floor as well there. Now, the suitcases do fit, but you have to lower the sort of like the floor to get them all the way to the backs of the backs of the back seat, if that makes sense, because of the height of the parcel shelf. But it does give it a little bit extra height. They will fit in, don't get me wrong. There's a large, there's a medium there, and there's our 2 carry-ons down the side there as well. And there's plenty more space there for those cable bags or extra rucksacks or bags and things like that, as I say, that you can see fit. And as I say, the nice thing is, oops, he says, the nice thing is you've got quite a nice low loading lip, even with the boot floor down in its lowest position. So yeah, a very practical car, and certainly for a plug-in hybrid estate car. Now, rear seat space. Well, it's quite good actually, because despite the fact that it's a hybrid, you've got a flat floor across as well, which is really quite good. The only downside is your feet feel a little bit pushed up. If you sit in the absolute upright position, which means it's difficult to get your feet underneath the actual seat in front of you. But I do sit with my driver's seat quite low. I'm sat behind my own driving position, and I'm 5'8". So there's plenty of room here. There's plenty of room here. But as I say, it's just my feet, because the seat's a little bit lower. But I think once you sort of like get into it and you start to lounge about, it's going to be all right. But there's certainly plenty of space. And as I say, a third passenger is not going to have any problem because you've got a flat floor across. Mat pockets in the backs of the seats where you can drop a phone into, but obviously nothing else in the top there. But you do have like nice, reasonably deep door bins at the side there. There's connectivity with 2 USB-C ports down there, and of course you've got ventilation coming into the back as well. There's also, again, it's those little things you're starting to see on BYDs, little coat hooks there, that type of thing. You know, the grab handles are quite nicely damped as well. So again, it's just that sort of perceived quality that's starting to eke into these cars. Certainly BYD seem to be the one that's doing it. I'm going to talk a lot more about that when I jump in the front in a second and go through the interior with you. There's also a centre armrest here, which is quite nice, and you've also got the 2 water bottle cup holders in there. And again, it's rubberised on the bottom, so it's got nice soft grips on it. It's not hard plastic. That's really good. And as I say, there's also the load through facility. The other thing that I like about it, well done BYD, is the nice just little plastic covers over the ISOFIX points. Really nice, you know, rather than just sort of, you know, zips or, you know, just open ISOFIX points. So again, it's that perception of quality that we're starting to see from the cars eke into it. So yeah, I have to say, you know, in terms of accommodation, this is good. As I say, the only downside is my feet. Those are just kind of jammed underneath the front seat, but that's down to my driving position. But certainly enough space, there's good storage. But as I say, the big thing for me is that perceived quality of materials. Big up step, as you'll now see when we move into the front. Now, when it comes to their interiors, BYD seem to fall into 2 camps for me. You get the wild and wacky design ones, which just seem a little bit low rent on quality and slightly cheaper materials, or you get the more subdued, plainer styling, but better quality of materials and better build and finish. And I think this falls very much into the latter camp. So it doesn't have the big wild and wacky swoops and curves and silly guitar strings on the door and stuff like that. But the quality of materials is actually very good. It's not perfect. I mean, there are some areas obviously you could criticise it for, and I will. But on the whole, it's actually really good. And dare I suggest, probably one of BYD's better efforts when it comes to the cabin, I think. Now, there's going to be 2 trim levels. In the UK, there's 3 in other territories. There's Boost, Comfort, Light and Comfort. We're getting the Boost and the Comfort, okay? This is a Boost model, okay? So the lead-in into the range. Interestingly enough, the cars they had for some of us to drive this morning were Comfort Lights, which is effectively going to be then phased out and replaced by the Comfort. So it's a little bit different in some respects how it's all going to work. But that's effectively what you're looking at. But this is a Boost model, so this is the lead into the range in that sense. Right, the difference really, the visual difference you get is the screen size, okay? So this is a 12.8 inch screen and it's fixed, okay? There's no rotating screen. And I'm led to believe, although it is on the Comfort model and it's a bigger screen, I think it's 15.6 inch on the Comfort model, I'm led to believe that the rotating screen thing is getting phased out of some of the BYDs or their newer models because I just don't really see an awful lot of point on it, to be honest with you. But of course, it's still the good screen. You still get things such as, you know, wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto and things like that. And I have to say, one thing that I do quite like about BYDs now is their processing power has got so much quicker and it's actually a really good screen to use now. And actually, in fairness, the size of it works okay. It's not really a problem at all. So you can see here, you obviously get the main screen here, you get these little, I don't know if they're called widgets or what they're called, you know, on the bottom that you can scroll through between, you know, so you get home screen there, you've got sort of media control there, some recent contacts for your phone thing, and this one's got the tire pressure gauge thing there, okay? And then if you do that, you can alter as well, you can edit, you know, sort of, you know, various different shortcuts that you see there, okay? So that's quite nice. But you see what I mean? As soon as you press it, it's really slick to respond, okay? So you go to your settings, it immediately brings that up. You go to the home page, it's immediately up there. So it's a really, really good and quick to respond screen. You've also got some shortcuts as well. So whilst at the bottom you see there you've got your climate control system. They are a little bit small, you know, the icons for, you know, for turning the temperature up or the fan speed up and such things. If you use 3 fingers and put them into the middle of the screen, there you can alter your temperature quickly, and then the same 3 fingers going left to right is fan speed. So that's good. You know, that's, I mean, that's, you can't complain about that at all. So once you learn those little shortcuts, it doesn't matter so much about the smaller icons down at the bottom. However, if you do touch them, if I touch the temperature gauge, it now brings up an actual climate menu. So you can actually go in there and adjust your fan speed as well. But you see what I mean? The only downside, it's happened before, when you press what you think is one fan speed to go up, you press the large one and it turns it on full blast. Press the small one and it goes right back to the bottom. You've got to choose the individual bars to actually adjust it bit by bit. That's a bit odd. But anyway, you can adjust your airflow direction, whether you want maximum air conditioning, you know, full defrost to the front screen, heated rear screen and mirrors, that type of thing as well. There's also a physical button for the front defrost, but there isn't one for the rear, which I do find a little bit odd. I thought they might have had, you know, sort of like one for the rear as well there, or put it all in the one button, but it's not there. Anyway, there we go. So that's what you've got there. The only other thing to talk about, you've got to sort of like be watchful of this. If you go in to turn off your driver assistance systems, okay, which obviously a lot of us like to do, you go into the setting menu here, you go into ADAS, all right, and you've got 3 different modes here. You've got driving assist, safety assist and parking assist. You need to go into your safety assist, and there's your emergency lane keep assist. Yes, I want that off. Keep on your blind spot detection, keep on your door open warning, that type of thing. Lane departure assist, turn that off. Yes, I want to turn that off. And right down at the bottom, speed limit change, okay, and intelligent speed attention, that's there. However, the other one that I don't like, which is the driver attention monitor, which is here, I couldn't figure this out. It's not there, and you're thinking, where is it? It's not in there. It's not in the ADAS system at all. You've actually got to go into vehicle, and it's in cabin perception, driver monitoring system. Why is that not part of the ADAS system? Why is that not in the same menu? That would make it so much easier. So you've got 2 or 3 different menus to go through. Now you have got favourite buttons, which obviously you can assign to those functions. But surely it would just make sense to keep that as part of the ADAS system menu. I don't understand why it's in the separate menu. But that's where it is. You've got to watch that if you're turning those off and you don't have them assigned to your favourites. It's in 2 different system settings. And then of course it's the usual stuff, isn't it? You know, you go through, you turn on your lights are set to auto come on, daytime running lights are set to come on, you've got your headlamp levelling there as well, intelligent high beam control, you know, where it flicks on and off with oncoming cars, there's your locks, you can set the height of the tailgate, you can change your sound, you know, there's a graphic equalizer in there for the media system, you know, whether you want notifications or not. So all of that's the stuff that you would set up before you set, you know, you wouldn't change any of that while you're driving, really. You know, that's what you do beforehand. So whilst there is a lot of menus to go through, there's not really an awful lot you need to do on the move, but just be aware of that ADAS system thing. You do, however, have to come in here to adjust your regenerative braking. So it's either standard or high, okay? And also as well, you can also adjust your charging capabilities here, because obviously it's a plug-in hybrid. So you can go in here to, you know, set up your charging times. You can go in here to look at your energy consumption, for instance, you know, things like that here. Again, maybe not stuff that you're going to use on the move. So again, it doesn't matter so much that it's in the screen, but that's where it all is. So it does look, on first acquaintance, it feels like there's a lot in there. But in general terms, there isn't. You know, once you've set those things up, the only thing you're going to need to adjust are things such as the ADAS systems. So watch that. And then, as I say, you've got the shortcuts for the climate control, and you've got physical volume control as well. You've got one on the steering wheel here, and you've also got a little thumb wheel down here that you can adjust that as well. So I do like that. And as I say, the screen itself is quite snappy and quick to use. So I don't have a problem with that. Obviously you get things such as navigation inbuilt into it as well, but most people are just going to probably click into their Apple CarPlay and use their Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever, Waze or whatever. Okay, so that's that. I will lay a little bit of criticism at the driver's display in some respects. I'd really like this to change if BYD are listening. The reason being is, it's clear, and I say it's clear, it's got a lot of information here, and it's in a nice position, and I like the fact that you do have that separate driver's display. But as per usual with BYD, it does look quite busy, and the speed is just right at the top there. It is in the centre, but it's quite a small number at the top, and there's an awful lot of information going on that screen. and you can't sort of like drop it down to be just a big I'd really just like a big central speedo display with the rest of the information around it. It just seems to be, it's almost like a secondary thing that's at the top there. Why can't that be bigger? That's weird. And why have you got this big graphic for your ADAS systems when you're turning them off anyway? Why can't you have the big speedo in the middle there? You can adjust certain elements of it. So there is things such as on this side, you've got trip computer and things like that, you know, for your fuel consumption, your you know, your energy use, and what's the other one? It's got tire pressure monitoring system, that's there. And then on this side here, there's a different one where you've got things such as your media, you know, it can tell you what media you're playing. It also goes in, you can set a speed limit yourself. So if you just say, I don't want to go above 70 miles an hour, you can pop that in there. And there's also a timer for some reason. I don't know why they've got a timer in there. But there you go. I just prefer you to be able to adjust that center one so you can have a big speedo there. There we go. Whilst I'm here, let's talk about the driver environment. You've got this, again, the nice 3-spoke BYD steering wheel. I do like BYD wheels, they're really nice. Just the right size, 3-spoke in design, slightly flattened at the bottom, which I don't mind so much, and some nice physical buttons on it as well. So you get your telephone, your voice activation, I'll talk about that in a wee second, your track search and your volume there, plus a favourite, and then your cruise control stuff is all on this side here. So that's really nice, and they're all physical buttons, they click when you use them, so that's quite cool. And it's just a nice compact wheel, a nice design as well. You've got a column stock on the left for your wipers and your lights. That's all in the one stock now, because unlike the Seal EV where it has the center toggle transmission, the transmission is now on the column stock on the right hand side. Okay, it's height and reach adjustable as well, which is quite cool. So you get a good driving position, so that can't be complained about. And I mentioned there were some physical buttons down here. I'll just go through those. You've got the driving mode button here, which is a little bit odd that that's a scroll wheel and not a switch. But there you go. Hazards, your auto hold when you're at stop, a stop-start button. Flicking between electric and hybrid mode is there, and then, as I say, the full screen defrost plus a thumb wheel for volume. Comfort models get a wireless phone charger. You don't get that in the Boost, but it does have obviously a space for your phone, plus, you know, it's actually space good for 2 phones in fairness. And then the vents are in there, and you do have a huge amount of under console storage area here as well, which is really quite good for the considering it is you know, a hybrid and not an EV. There is a lot of storage in the car, so you've got under storage there, the bit there, good sized door bins, because whilst they've given us water bottles, I have brought my big Yeti, which will slot in there, but it will also fit in the door bin, he says. Yeah, that big Yeti will fit in the door bin, so that's quite good. Plus as well, you get a reasonable sized glove box, okay? I was talking about the design and the material use. I really like the design of the car, and as I say, on the whole, 99% of what you see and touch in here feels good quality. So you've got some nice soft touch plastic on the top of the doors, and then again you've got this sort of like rubberized sort of like leatherette style top of the dashboard here, which has got a bit of bounce back with the fake stitching in it. Then you've got this nice lighter grey, you know, vinyl area here, which has got some nice like feel to it and it's quite squidgy. I really like this. See this grey area here? It's almost like it's a material that they've put in here, and I like that, and it goes across the dash. I'm just a bit surprised it didn't go into the door. It's just then got this textured bit of plastic in the door. Don't know why they didn't extend that into the door. That would look really smart. But even so, it still looks good. I really like it. And there's a little just ridge in there that's almost got like a little bit of like fake kind of carbon plastic in there, which is nice. My only criticism of the rest of the materials is the door handles feel really cheap and light plastic, and they just wobble in your hand. It's a real shame that, because that's a touch point, and the rest of it's just so good. It's a shame they just didn't go that wee bit extra and put maybe, I don't know, metal handles in there, or just a better quality of plastic, but that feels really cheap in your hand, like it is actually going to break off. But that's the rest of the controls feel good. That's why I'm surprised at that. That's the rest of them just feel quite nice. But just watch that, because that just feels really loose and plasticky. The seats. Well, the seats get sort of like, you know, the fake leather, the pleather on them. And obviously you've got things such as, you know, heating and ventilation on the Comfort model. Do you get it on the Boost? I should have looked at that. Driver's seat electrically adjustable. Front passenger seat electric. So it is adjustable, electrically adjustable. But it doesn't say, I don't think it's heated. No, you don't get heating seats on them. You have to move up to the comfort model to get heated seats, but you also get heated steering wheel and ventilated seats on the comfort model, which would have been handy today. But the seats, the only thing I would say about them is they feel a bit flat. They've got reasonable lateral support on the side bolsters, but it's the squab that's the problem. It's quite a flat squab. It's not uncomfortable, don't get me wrong, but just, you know, I've been collected the car this morning, I've been driving it around this morning on motorway and back roads and stuff, and there just doesn't seem a lot of support for your legs. Yesterday I was in Portugal driving the updated Peugeot 308, and it's got a really nice sort of like driver's seat that really holds you, and it's got lots of nice bits of lateral support. It's just a shame that this just doesn't, and there's no adjustment, you know, for length of squab either, although it's not too bad a length. You've got four-way adjustment, you don't have a tilt, but you do have height, and there's no lumbar support on the boost either, so just watch that. But you do have a reach and rake adjustment on the steering wheel, okay? Equipment levels, they're good. They're across both the cars. As I say, obviously you get the screen there, you get your Apple CarPlay, your Android Auto, you get cruise control, you get voice activation with when you say hi, name of car here, and then there's various things that you can ask it to do, you know, open a window, you know, various different other instructions that it knows. And obviously there's got an integrated with some of the things like ChatGPT as well, which are coming across cars now, so you can ask it to recommend you a restaurant, or, you know, is there a car park in the local area or whatever. So, you know, that's all nice and neatly integrated, and as I say, the screen itself is good to use, so I can't complain with that. And then of course you got other little nice and I'll start again, other little nice bits and pieces as well with the car, such as the NFC locking, you know, the sort of like the leatherette stylish seats, and also electric windows, folding mirrors, all the kind of stuff you would expect. So even on the Boost model, it's still a well-equipped car, but there is quite a jump up in terms of equipment when you move to the Comfort, and I think that's probably going to be the big seller. I also didn't mention there was some storage underneath here as well, which is quite nice and deep. There's certainly got enough in there for a good family bag of Monster Munch in there. It'd be nice, however, if it just actually latched closed. They just flop down and that's it. It'd be nice if there was a latch on them, but there's decent storage. And as I say, apart from those door handles, the quality of the interior, again, is one of BYD's best. And there's some nice, you know, it's padded down the side of the centre console, so if you have longer leg and you rest your legs against your knees against the centre console, it's padded down there, which is good. So brilliant interior, really like the interior. There's very little things to fault. The little things that I fault it for are the plastic door handles. I'd like to have that a bit more configurable so I can have a bigger speedo, or just put a head-up display in it. But the screen's good to use, it's quick, there's lots of storage, the quality itself is good, as I say. There's a bit of grey plastic here, but two things is, I'm glad it's not piano black, and in fairness, there's no sharp edges on it, and it does feel quite good. Steering wheel's nice, a relatively good, decent driving position, apart from the slightly flat squab in the seat, and I like the material used in the dash, and the dashboard design is good as well. So, in summary, a really good interior, one of BYD's best efforts, and can thoroughly recommend this. Right, now I'm going to do my best to explain DMI technology to you, or as BYD put it, super hybrids. DMI, dual mode intelligent, is what it stands for. Now in most hybrids, what you have is a small electric motor that assists a petrol engine, okay? It's sort of the other way round with the DMI stuff, because whilst it is a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder engine that's underneath here, it's normally aspirated and it produces less than 100 horsepower. So it's not a particularly powerful engine. The idea behind this is actually to make it a generator in some respects, which then charges up the battery, which will provide power to the electric motor. Because with the DMI technology, it tries to force it to electric drive most of the time, okay? So in other words, what that then is a series hybrid. So the engine's powering up the battery, which then powers the electric motor, which then provides drive to the wheels, okay? However, with DMI, dual mode, it can also become a parallel hybrid. In other words, the electric motor and the engine can work in conjunction with each other to provide drive to the wheels when needed, okay? And that's what gives it its outstanding, according to BYD, fuel economy and its overall range type of thing, because it's using the engine to charge the battery all the time, which then is providing power to the motor, but can work together with fuel, and you know what I'm trying to say there, okay? Now, depending obviously on the car you get will depend obviously on the power it delivers and also the size of battery and electric only drive that it can give. This is the Boost model, okay, which means that along with the electric motor, this provides about 180 horsepower, as I say. You've got a 10 kilowatt hour battery in it, which should give, according to WLTP figures and BYD's own figures, an electric only driving range of around about 35 miles. Now that might be enough for your week of driving, depending on what you do in terms of with the car. You might never hear the petrol engine actually come on. Okay, if you move up to the Comfort model, however, what you then get is a 19 kilowatt hour battery, which almost doubles that EV only driving range. So it goes up to about 65 miles of electric only drive that it can actually give, okay, which is also a bit better. The other big difference with the Comfort model is it means you can also charge from a CCS charger, you know, those combined charging system ones that you get out there. However, it's only 26 kilowatts is its charging speed, all right, but it delivers a charge of 30 to 80% in 23 minutes, okay? This Boost model, however, doesn't get that. So in other words, it'll only charge at 3.3 kilowatts. You can't charge it from one of those rapid chargers that you see out and about. You can only charge it when you're at home and from a Type 2, you know, sort of like street type of charging cable as well, from, street style charger that you get on the pavements these days. So that's the big difference. So if you're using the car more for, dare I suggest, long trips, you know, maybe, I don't know, you're up and down the motorway every day with your job or whatever and things like that, then obviously it's the Comfort model you should really be looking at in that sense, because you see you've got the ability to actually rapid charge the car when you're out and about, when you're stopped. You can't with the Boost model, and that's maybe better for more urban running around. But that is essentially DMI technology. Okay? Understand? Great, brilliant. Should we take it for a drive and actually just see what it's actually like when we're out and about on the road? Because that would be better, wouldn't it? Yeah, let's do that. Now, like I explained earlier, in terms of the engine, the running gear and stuff like that, primarily it tries to be an electric car. So what you have is a relatively, you know, sort of like low-powered petrol engine up front, but combine that with the electric motor, which is slightly better in terms of its power than you would normally get in a hybrid, and actually what you get is a reasonably powerful car. Well, in terms of this size, of course, it's about 180 horsepower that's in this Boost model, and this will do 0 to 60 in about 8.9 seconds. There's a little bit more power that you get from the Comfort model. That goes up to 209 horsepower, but it only drops the 0 to 60 time down to about 8.5 seconds. But that, I think, is still an acceptable level of performance for this style of car. And, you know, in general running around, as I say, the car will tend to sort of force itself to be an electric car most of the time, which is quite nice. And then obviously you get the little symbol up there, HEV, that's it being hybrid. But there is a button down here where you can change it. You know, you can go to just to EV mode now, or HEV, so you can flip it between the two depending on how you want it to behave, or you can just leave it and the car will sort itself out. And that's where you get those really good fuel economy figures from. But what I'm more concerned about is how the car actually drives rather than the performance, although I will come back to the performance in a second. How does it drive? It's a little bit disappointing, if I'm honest with you. The chassis, it's a bit weird. There's a lot of, the suspension is primarily set up to be quite soft, I think. So on sort of like more open roads like this, or on the motorway, I was coming down the M25 earlier, on the longer undulations, you know, you do tend to get a lot of that float, and the body control's not that great. So, you know, you go into a bend, there's a lot of lean in it, you know, so the car does tend to have a bit of body roll. And that's when you notice the lack of support from the seats. You also notice the steering, which is a little bit lifeless as well. But I'll come back to that in a second. But there's also quite a bit of vertical movement from the suspension. So this section of road that I'm just about to go down now, there's a lot of transverse ridges and you know, expansion joints and stuff. And it doesn't iron them out at all. You're feeling every single one. They're all coming through the bottom of the car, and just constantly just feeling that. It doesn't feel as well engineered. Like you see, yesterday I was out, you know, driving Portugal, driving the new Peugeot, or the revised Peugeot 308, and to me that car just feels so much more competent when it comes to ironing out just the fundamental basics on the road surface. This is struggling a little bit, I think, and that's a bit disappointing. They've sort of blinded us a little bit with the technology, the hybrid system, and forgotten a lot about what makes the fundamentals of the car behave itself. Now, I mentioned I was going to come back and talk about the steering and the acceleration. The steering, as I say, I was quite critical in the Seal U DMI and be a bit lifeless. There are two settings. There's a comfort and a sport setting. I've got it in the sport setting, and it isn't as light as it was in the Seal U DMI. There's a bit more weight behind it, but it's still a little bit lifeless to me. You know, again, that the real sort of like alacrity of the Peugeot, you know, that I was driving yesterday was really noticeable. You know, when you jump in this car now and just find it a little bit, oh yeah, you want me to turn the wheels? Yeah, all right, then I'll do that, thanks. It doesn't really want to sort of like excel at one particular area, this car. That's the problem with it. You know, there just doesn't really seem to be, it's a little bit like having a car as just a tool, really. There's no real joy to be had from it. The other issue that I have with it is the performance. Not so much the numbers, but the way in which it delivers the performance. Now, obviously, as I say, what you get with normally with an EV is you get a lot of torque right at the, you know, it's like instantaneous torque. You don't get that from this car. See, that's the engine. You see that little rev flare there? That's the engine sort of coming in, but acting as that generator. So it's not actually driving the wheel as such at the moment. But yeah, it's not exactly that sort of EV dump of torque that you normally sort of expect. So here I'm just gone into this, like the higher speed limit here. Put my foot down, and it's just a weird sensation. It's just like this rev flare that you get. Eventually it kicks in, the engine kicks in, and then you get this rev flare, and then the car starts to accelerate, but it never feels as quick as the numbers suggest. I mean, it gets there, but it just doesn't feel as quick as, you know, a 0 to 60 time of 8.5 seconds. And there's this weird step in the throttle that you just sort of have to push through. It's like one section and then the other. But it's like the throttle input doesn't match the response you get. It's really quite odd. I just don't quite think the calibration's right. I mean, they obviously know what they're doing, these engineers, but to me it just doesn't feel like it's set up correctly. It feels almost like you put your foot down, you go, what's happening? And then all of a sudden there's a noise and the car starts to move forward. And it's a real shame, because I really, the Seal, the Saloon, the EV one, is a brilliant car. You know, again, it's got that instant throttle response, that load of torque right at the start, and a reasonably competent chassis. It's not the best in its class, but it's really good. You know, it's a car you would consider as an alternative to a Tesla Model 3. It really is. Would I consider this as an alternative to a Skoda Octavia or a Peugeot 308? I'm not sure I would. Genuinely not sure I would. Not on the basis of how it drives. And as I say, it doesn't particularly handle that well, because there's quite a softness to the suspension, so there's a bit of body roll in it, but it's not comfortable enough, you know, at low speed for it to be, you know, sort of like to say, well, the flip side of that body roll is you get really nice comfortable suspension at low speed, because you don't. The brakes are the last thing I need to discuss about. You do have adjustable brake regeneration in the car. You have to go into the screen for it. That's okay, I don't have a problem with that as such, because it's not something I use an awful lot of the time. Even when I'm driving my electric car, I don't tend to use brake regen that much. I like to feel like I'm actually using the brake pedal to stop the car. But you've got the ability to have that brake regen. But if you're a fan of one pedal driving, it's very rare to find on a hybrid anyway, but it doesn't have it. But you've got the ability to have it on or off if you want. But the brake pedal itself has got a relatively decent feel to it, which makes it even more strange that the accelerator pedal doesn't. There isn't a consistency in the way the pedals feel, which again I just find a little bit disappointing. The driving position itself is good. you know, in terms of the relationship with the seat to the wheel to the pedals, that is good. I just wish the seat had a little bit more support, side support on the squab. It's fine down the sides, down, you know, sort of like down the backrest. I just feel that the squab is quite flat, and that's another thing that sort of makes that sort of like body roll just a little bit more pronounced, you know, because obviously you tend to find that you're, you know, falling out of the seat a little bit. Now, I'm taking it down this section of road here because this is sort of like the bumpiest section on my little route, and I just want to see how it sort of behaves down here. And you'll see the other yes, see, look, it's quite, there's quite a lot of movement down here. There shouldn't be this level of movement down here either. To see, the other thing is you can hear it. It's not that refined, the car. The engine's not particularly noisy in terms of, you know, it's not a coarse engine. That's absolutely fine. You do hear the engine when it kicks in, and it's you know, as I say, you get that wee bit of a rev flare, but it's not, you know, it's not like really noticeable. But combined with the road noise that you get and the wind noise that you're getting as well, it all adds up to be, I won't say a noisy car, but again, there are just other cars in the class which are more refined when it comes to keeping all those external noises away from the interior. I've been quite harsh there, and I understand that, and you're probably saying I'm being really, really critical of it. The thing is, however, BYD as a company are big, really, really big. You know, they are the largest producer of new energy vehicles in the world. You know, they are, you know, they're making massive inroads into the UK market. They've spent all morning telling us about how successful they are, which is great, you know, and as I say, they have got an awful lot of product out there, and they've got a lot of good product out there. And this is another, you know, decent car. But I would have thought by now they'd be better. Does that make sense? As I say, the hybrid technology really impresses. You know, it's like their EVs, you know, their efficiency, their charging speeds and the battery sizes and stuff like that usually impresses. But the fundamental basics of car dynamics is where it lets them down. And this is another one of those cars. And it's a real shame, because I really wanted this car to be better than it is. I really wanted this to, you know, to be able to stand around and say, it's brilliant value for money, you get a huge amount of car for the money, it's got fabulous hybrid technology, and it drives really well. And it's just average the way that it drives. Now, that might suit you, don't get me wrong. You might jump in this car, drive it and go, this is brilliant. And I'm, you know, the range that it's given me at the moment between the battery and the fuel tank is telling me I could drive 695 miles before I need to refuel. That is impressive, and that's what I mean. You're sort of blinded by that. And then the hope is that you'll just forget about the fact that the rest of it is just a bit average. And BYD need to be better than average now. They should be better than average now. And this car is just a bit average. Right, you're going to want to know how much this is. Okay, well, as I say, at the moment, there's two trim levels, okay? There's the Boost, which this car is, and the Comfort. However, if you walk into your local BYD dealership at the moment and say, I want to order a Comfort, they don't have one. It comes online a little bit later this year, beginning in next. What they do have at the moment is the Comfort Lite, which is essentially exactly the same as the Comfort, but it gets the slightly smaller infotainment screen of this car, okay? But you still get the more powerful motor, the bigger battery, that type of thing. So it's up to you if that makes sense to you or not. Price, well, it starts with the Boost, like this one, in saloon form at £33,990. If you want a Touring, it's only another £1,000 on top of that, so £34,990 for the Touring model like I've got here. If you want the Comfort, then obviously it's a step up in price. It's £36,990. As a saloon, £37,990 as a Touring. So good value for money, I think, considering the size of the car, the technology, and the potential sort of like fuel economy that you're going to be looking at with the car. Now, of course, it's a BYD, so it does get a reasonably good mechanical warranty as well. You get standard battery 8-year warranty as you do with most of these cars, but the car itself is also covered by a 6-year, 100,000 mile warranty. Competition. Now, let's just look at the touring, okay? Which is difficult in some respects because of the rise in popularity of the crossover SUV market has meant that the estate car market has dwindled somewhat, especially when it comes to plug-in hybrids. So actually, in some respects, whilst I've been saying this is a D-segment style of car, its price, and dare I suggest because of lack of choice, means that you probably will also consider C-segment estates as well. Now, there was one I was out driving in Portugal yesterday, although I didn't drive the estate version, although they had them there, which is the newly revised Peugeot 308. That also comes as a plug-in hybrid in an estate car, so you could consider that as a rival to it, which means you might also think of things such as things like the Volkswagen Golf, the Corolla Sports Tourer from Toyota, the Cupra Leon, that's available as an estate car as well, with hybrid technology in it as well, and Skoda as well with the Octavia. Now, Skoda is quite an interesting one because they've got the Octavia as a plug-in hybrid estate, and that's quite a big C-sector style of car, but they've also got the Superb, which you can have as a plug-in hybrid estate as well. And of course, its sister brand Volkswagen, which also has the Golf, has the Passat, which is a plug-in hybrid version of that. So that's your competition, I think, when you're looking at the estate car, the touring body style of this. You're going to be looking across two different market sectors. Of course, if you're looking at the saloon model, then there's different cars out there that are available to you, but I think you'll still look at things such as the Skoda Superb and the Octavia as a comparison with this, especially when you think of the price that this car is at, because Skoda are another brand that offers good value for money, I think. There's no doubt that in the 2.5 years since BYD arrived in the UK shores, they haven't been short of new models with which to tempt us into their showrooms with. In fact, in just a few short weeks' time, I'm on another BYD launch for another new model that we're going to be getting. And I do think this DMI technology does make an awful lot of sense for some people. It will be a great stepping stone for someone who maybe likes the idea of electric motoring but isn't quite ready to go full EV as yet. However, I do think it's a little bit of a distraction technique from BYD. Blind us with all this tech, and we'll forget about the fact that what it's actually powering is quite an average car. And that's a little bit disappointing for me. There's no doubt about it that it offers great value for money, and there's a very spacious and well-equipped car here. But the fundamental basics of it do, I think, lag behind some of class best. That tech is all well and good, but it needs to get the basics of it right. Get the basics right of the dynamics of a good car, and that technology will just be the icing on the cake. But just remember, BYD, it's the cake that's the most important part. The icing is just the decoration that goes on after. Thank you for watching another new car review here on House of Cars. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you don't mind, and then once you've done that, turn on your notifications so that you don't miss the next one when it's uploaded and it's gone live. If you've enjoyed this week's review, and I hope you have, then give it a little thumbs up for me, and of course, as always, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars that I review on the channel, such as the BYD Seal 6 DMI, and of course on the House of Cars channel overall. Now, if you want to follow me over on social media, then I'm on Instagram, and it's at House of Cars 1973. So if you'd like to follow me there, I would certainly appreciate the support. And remember, whether or not it is a new car or an old car, a small car or a large car, a slow car or a fast car, you'll find them all here in the House of Cars. Thanks again for watching. Thank you for your continued support. I'll see you again soon.